Everybody, I'd like to call our Commissioners' meeting to order for May 24th. Would you join me in the salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. All right, the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of our previous meeting of May 10th, 2022. So if there are any changes or corrections, we can certainly make them now. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the same.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion having been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor so signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next item on the agenda are the bills. Rob.
All right. The general fund we have bills totaling $4,192,092.25. Hazardous materials fund $1,548.06. 911 fund $61,440.35. Hotel tax fund $186,719.66. Communities Development Block Grant, $130,812.16. Domestic Relations, $10,010.21. And Children and Youth, $481,241.22. For a grand total of $5,063,863.91.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Unless there are questions or concerns, I'll entertain a motion that we pay the bills as stated by the controller.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, give us a second, guys. We'll sign. All righty, we have some personnel issues for our consideration today. Under new hires, we have a caseworker at Children and Youth Services effective May 23rd, 2022. A second caseworker at Children and Youth Services also effective on May 23rd, 2022. We have 4 telecommunicators being hired at the 911 office, one effective, or all of them being effective June 6th, 2022. Under transfers, we have a secretary at the Office of the Magisterial District Judge in Clearfield to GIS technician at our GIS office, effective May 31st, 2022. And under separations, retirements, we have a caseworker supervisor at CYS, effective May 20th, 2022. And I want to note, that's Tanya Wetosh, who has worked for many years at Children and Youth Services. We certainly want to thank her for her service and wish her the best in whatever direction the future takes her. We have a secretary at the Office of the Magisterial District Judge office in Houtsdale, effective July 29th, 2022. Also, caseworker at Children and Youth Services, effective May 31st, 2022. And that is Jeff Patay. Jeff has also served Clearfield County for many years, and we certainly wish him well and thank him for his service.
Renee probably have well over 20.
Thank you, Lisa.
20-some years.
All right, well then, Renee Hudish, Secretary at Magisterial District Judge Glass's office, and thank you, Lisa, I didn't realize that. Renee served us for 20 years, and we also thank her for her service and wish her the best in whatever direction she heads out on now. So, okay, unless there's some other personnel changes that I am not unaware of, I will entertain a motion that we approve the same.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion having been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor so signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public comment. I know we have someone coming for public comment, but she was serving a customer, and we want to make sure she takes care of her client, a county client, properly. So I guess we'll just wait and fit her in somewhere else. Anybody else here for public comment? Okay, there being none. Under old business, I have nothing. Under new business, the first item on the agenda, and we do have a lot of information for the world today. Under item 1, we have some parking lot repair and replacement bids.
First one is from HRI. You got an opener? Go ahead.
Oh, I didn't even see it, thank you.
Don't impale yourself.
And total amount of the bid is $188,000. And it does look like they have, yes, they have the proper accompanying documentation that they need to have. So, all right, Mr. Brown.
Second one is from BK Asphalt Paving of Falls Creek.
Okay, thank you. Okay, they have a proposal in the amount of $226,133. They also have the bid bond, something Powell County Public Works Verification Form, which is also, of course, required. These are going to you, correct, Heather? And
Last one is from Glenn Hawbaker Incorporated.
thank you. Okay, that proposal is in the amount of $203,122. And of course, it also has, where it has the, yeah, here we go. It does have the necessary paperwork accompanying it. Alrighty, so I guess at this point, Heather, we just turn these over to you, correct?
I think too, we were going to ask for a motion to approve the lowest bidder, which appears to be HRI, pending final approval and review of the bid. That way we can get started on it just with the time schedule.
Absolutely, okay. May I have a bid that we,
You need a motion?
no, excuse me, may I have a bid? May I have a motion as to the parking lot repair and replacement bid?
I'll move to accept HRI pending solicitor review at the amount specified in their bid.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tony. Motion having been properly moved and seconded, all those in favor so signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Heather. We'll wait to hear what the results are of your review. Second item under new business, we have for our consideration adoption of the new solid waste plan, and we have Jody Brennan, county planner, with us. Jody, you have the floor. Thank you, Jody. And then that'll, I guess, basically take care of the county for the next 10 years, assuming it is approved by the necessary number of municipalities. Okay, thank you. We do have before us a resolution for our consideration. Fellows, any comments before I read the resolution in the record?
Only to thank Jody and everybody who served on that for the work they put in to make this happen.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
great deal of work, and that's a very important aspect of county government that I think tends to fly under the radar sometimes. But,
This is every 10 years.
yeah. 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 Okay, very good. Well, for our consideration, whereas counties are required to ensure sufficient processing disposal capacity for municipal waste for at least 10 years, Clearfield County previously adopted a 10-year plan revision in 2012. The county commenced the plan revision process for the next 10-year period, providing written notice to DEP on January 26, 2021. In accordance with Act 101 of DEP regulations, Clearfield County solicited proposals for integrated municipal solid waste management services, including waste disposal capacity, construction demolition waste, and municipal sewage sludge generated from within Clearfield County for a minimum of 10 years. After consideration of the proposals received, the county has prepared a proposed plan revision document entitled the Clearfield County Integrated Municipal Solid Waste Management Plan for 2023-2033, whereas the Board of Commissioners of Clearfield County hereby wishes to adopt the plan revision. Therefore, be it resolved and enacted, and it is hereby resolved and enacted as follows. In accordance with Act 101 DOP regulations, the Board of Commissioners approves and adopts the plan revision. Director of the Clearfield County Solid Waste Authority is hereby authorized and directed in accordance with Act 101 DEP regs to submit the plan revision to the municipalities in Clearfield County upon such ratification, submit plan revision to DEP for review and approval. Chairman of the Board of Commissioners is hereby fully authorized and empowered to execute any and all other certifications or documents necessary or appropriate to facilitate municipal ratification and DEP final approval of the plan revision. Before I call for a motion, I want to echo what Commissioner Glass said. Guys, these involve a lot of work on Jody's part and on the part of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, so we do really appreciate that. Okay, having read that into the record, I will entertain a motion that we approve resolution number 2022, number 3, approving revisions to its municipal waste management plan for the next 10 years, and authorizing the submission to the municipalities for approval also.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Motion having been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor so signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, very good. Let's get this signed. So I think there's two copies. Thank you, everybody. Okay, folks, next item on the agenda, number 3, is we are for our consideration several agreements with Enterprise Corporation, which of course is the automobile rental company that we're so familiar with. We have with us today 2 representatives from Enterprise, Mr. Alan Brown and Chelsea Burns. Chelsea, I keep wanting to call you Chelsea Handler by mistake. Gives you an idea of what I watch on television. What Clearfield County has been dealing with an issue of having an aging automobile fleet. We currently have a fleet of 26 vehicles, and we've come to discover that over half of them are at least 6 years old or more. And of course, the county, as a result, spends quite a bit of money on maintenance. Obviously, they are not, a lot of the vehicles aren't as fuel efficient as the newer vehicles are, so we spend a lot of money on fuel. And we also, we have some concerns for newer vehicles are safer, and so obviously we have some safety concerns for employees. Of course, obviously we hope to have more newer vehicles with less maintenance and fuel costs, and also at the same time somehow try to save some money. Enterprise has presented us with a plan that they will talk about here in a second that should be able to address all those issues, and through the use of, I guess, equity built up in the transfer of these vehicles, the county hopefully will actually be able to reduce the amount of money it spends yearly on its fleet of vehicles. So, Alan and Chelsea, I'll turn this over to you at this point to do a presentation. Guys, if you even want to, if you'd like to make use of the podium, that's fine. So, thank you.
office.
I have to hold it.
Yeah, commissioners and everybody, thank you very much for your time today and for the countless hours that we've spent talking over the last few months regarding fleet management, which we're very passionate about. As Commissioner John had said, that we are Enterprise. We are a sister company to Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So we work specifically in the fleet management division. We're a family-owned company still. Been around since 1957. So what we're looking to help accomplish is, like most other government agencies, when we meet with them, we find that they've got an aging fleet. A lot of constraints that they find in replacing vehicles comes from lack of funding, deferring replacement, and incurring high maintenance costs. So part of the process and part of the program that we're looking to help with is by shortening the life cycle of a vehicle, replacing vehicles faster, utilizing our funding structure, which allows the county to bring in more vehicles with less cash outlay, therefore reducing their operating costs in a much faster way. So over the next 10 years, what we'd be looking to do is take a vehicle life cycle where it usually takes about 11 years on average to replace one vehicle, to shorten that down to anywhere between 2 to 4 years. By doing that, it's going to free up capital from the salvage value of vehicles much faster. Maintenance costs will come down by almost 50%, because you're replacing vehicles at a much faster rate, and fuel costs will be reduced by at least 20%. Furthermore, from a safety and a technological aspect, vehicles will not predate some of the common safety features that come standard with vehicles right now, like seat belts and anti-lock braking and backup cameras. So over the next 10 years, we've done a 10-year forecast on what to expect from our partnership. And over the next 10 years, we're looking to save about, or have a reduction to the budget of about $370,000. What that works out to from an average sustainable savings per year is about $7,000 to the county. Currently, the government sector and our business is our fastest growing sector in our organization. We work with almost half the counties in Pennsylvania, along with a dozen additional municipalities, authorities, housing authorities throughout the state. The plan that we've presented is a sustainable plan that's going to help with budgeting, become more predictable moving forward, and in the long term, reduce the age, the safety of the fleet, and save the county money.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate that. I just before I turn it over to comments from the guys and discussion, and of course, obviously, there's an input from our solicitor. I do want to note that one of the things we were also pleased to discover was that Enterprise, as far as the maintenance, Enterprise was very willing to work with local repair shops, local automobile dealers that do repair. And we did give them the names of some folks to contact. I'm sure they'll be in the process of doing that. If they're interested in accepting the business, we were pleased to at least be able to keep the business local. And I know we have some departments that just because of the use they make of county automobiles, I think would be very well served by more frequently newer vehicles that are much more reliable. I guess the only thing I did want to say for the record, our vehicles are getting old, guys, but they do have seatbelts in them. Anyway, any other comments or thoughts, guys, at this point? Sure, go right ahead.
Well, I want to say that this has been a long road. We've been working on this for several months, and I guess the first part was just trying to figure out exactly what we had. We have a lot of vehicles. We have a lot of older vehicles. We have a lot of departments. We solicited input from a lot of department heads, tried to figure out what their needs were and what solutions best seemed to be the fit. And the things I like most about what they offer are, number one, the buying power that they offer to try to keep costs down. Number two, the ability to potentially resell these, that, you know, one of his jobs is to try to figure out the market and sell the vehicles before they really start to plummet in value. And I've talked to other counties like Indiana and Cambria, and that's one of the things they found to be very helpful, is that they're maximizing the resale value. And that's something we've talked about at some length. And finally, from my perspective, the ability to have a better tab on these vehicles. There'll be some telematics involved, so we'll be able to see, you know, where they're being driven and how they're being driven, and make sure that they're being driven in a safe manner. And I think that's good for us as a county. It's good for the taxpayers to know that their vehicles are being used wisely. So, you know, it's a big change, and change is always a little bit scary and hard, but I think this is going to end up being a real long-term win for Clearfield.
And I think also that'll help the county in the future with our budget. When we do our budget, we'll know exactly which departments truly do need a vehicle, what the use of the vehicle is, so that way, you know, we'd be better prepared, you know, for the budget. Yeah. More predictable, yeah.
And one thing I would note, unfortunately, it sounds like just with the supply chain issues that the country is struggling with now, it looks like, I guess at the earliest, it sounds like November-ish, December-ish, the first vehicles start coming in, guys. Is that right? If we would approve the agreement?
Yeah, I don't want to stand on record and guarantee when vehicles will come in, because we've seen through experience and with control that is out of our hands that there have been more extended lead times. But what I can say is what we will do is make sure that from a planning perspective, we're staying ahead of industry news. We work with every manufacturer out there to get information to relay back to our clients to help create that predictable planning, to plan ahead how it relates to your budget year, and when we review the program annually, to when I'm looking at how to evaluate the equity and the ideal time to sell a vehicle. All that goes into a managed fleet program. So, you know, depending on when the order banks open and when scheduled for production, and as long as all of that is approved, we've got a solid plan that we can, you know, that we can bounce off of to begin with, and then just monitor the situation from what we get back from the manufacturers as far as ETAs, time to delivery to the dealers locally here, and you know, start to arrive for your people.
Thank you. Okay, appreciate that. And that's one reason why we wanted to get to this as quickly as we could, because we obviously want to get our orders in as quickly as we can. So, okay, well, folks, thank you so much. Enterprise has been great to work with. I guess I'll turn it over to you at this point. Heather, you've had a chance to review some of the agreements?
I have. There are several agreements as part of this arrangement. The first is the master equity lease agreement. A lot of the terms are going to be specific to the vehicles that end up, one, being available, as well as the term that best fits the county. So as far as specific prices and terms, those are going to all be negotiable based on the schedules that are presented. And I think those terms have gone over with you, as well as the insurance requirements. Those have all been reviewed by our insurance agent as well as our insurance carrier and approved. There was a choice of law provision that we've discussed previously that I think you're aware of, as far as some of the terms, as far as ending the contract and things like that. So there's the master equity lease that'll be there, as well as a full maintenance agreement. Likewise, that's exactly what Commissioner Sobel had stated. That will help ease the burden a little bit of the county. That agreement has been reviewed with no changes to it. The next agreement would be the maintenance management and a fleet rental agreement. This deals with fleet cards that Enterprise is covering some of that, and correct me if I'm wrong on it. Over, I think, 125 is authorized. There's just a card, so that way it eases the county. They'll do a pre-approval, so that way there's not jumping through hoops in there. So that agreement is part of this, as well as agreements to sell the vehicles that are currently owned by the county in a consignment auction agreement. So those vehicles that we do have in our possession, we can obviously dispose of, and then my understanding is those will come through as a credit on most of those vehicles or schedules once we can kind of align that with the timing on there. So those agreements have been reviewed this morning, ready for approval. In addition to the agreements, you will also need to do a motion to authorize the submission of the credit application that is part of those agreements.
Okay, sorry.
The only thing I would add, briefly, if I may, we're gonna do this on a rotating basis. We have a lot of vehicles, some of which are newer, that we've purchased in the last few years, but I think we had 10 or 11? 11 of our vehicles that we identified as the most critical needs. I mean, up to 21 years old in some cases, so, and one of them is really, really bad. So we're gonna do it in that basis, and then every year we'll roll several vehicles as needed. So pending review and agreement between you and us, how we go forward. Sorry, John, I just want to make that clear.
No, no.
We're not doing them all at once.
No, that's fine. And we are, and also, we are conscious there are some immediate vehicle needs for some of our departments. We're going to deal with that also. So I don't want folks to get the impression they're not going to see it. People who need a vehicle now aren't going to see a vehicle until November or something like that. We certainly are going to continue to deal with that. Okay, very good. Thank you, guys. All right, I guess we need two motions then, correct, Heather?
I would do separate.
Okay.
The agreements is one, and then, like I said, the submission separate.
Okay, thank you. First of all, may I have a motion that we approve the agreements, motion to approve the agreements as far as the master lease agreement, and I know there were a couple of like vehicle maintenance agreements and things of that nature, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and presented to us in a package. If I could have a motion that we authorize the chair to execute those same agreements that were presented to us by Enterprise.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion having properly moved and seconded. All those in favor so signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and I guess may I also have a motion that we make the credit applications as referenced by our solicitor that need to be done in conjunction with the arrangement with Enterprise.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion having properly moved and seconded. All those in favor so signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, guys, very good. And I guess you're going to stick around till the meeting's over and we'll get the agreements all signed for you, correct? Now, you don't have to if you want us to do them now, but you were planning on sticking around?
We'll stick around.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Can you have his microphone?
Yep.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
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 Sure.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's unusual, so I forgot we were
No,
on
you're
that.
good. You're good. Thanks. Well, guys, jumping back to public comment, which we held off on doing because our VA director was so busy taking care of a client, which we didn't want to interrupt. We have Bettina Nicholas here that's contacted me and wanted to address an issue that has just popped up in the past couple of days, but it looks like is now heading in a positive direction. So go ahead, Bettina.
Thank you, John. So Crown Crest Cemetery, which is currently known as Stiers Cemetery, as maybe some of you know, some of you don't know, currently does not have the flags placed on the grave markers. And Jeremy Stiers, the owner of the cemetery, I guess this is his first round, so he wasn't quite understanding the word fails me right now, but the necessity of having the cemetery ready for Memorial Day, because our local American Legion and VFW both participate in the Memorial Day services up there, and they have for past 30, 40 years, as long as I can remember. So I've reached out to both the American Legion and the VFW here in Clearfield. The VFW has contacted me back and have agreed that I can place a flyer out there at the post, and also as soon as I get information back from Jeremy on a date and a time that is convenient for him, I'm going to be able to get that set in stone as to when he is going to be okay with volunteers coming up and helping to put the flags on the cemetery. The VFW is also going to put it on their Facebook page to send that out to all the mailings of the members to request for volunteers. So we are trying to work forward to get with Jeremy. I'm just waiting on him to call me back. I haven't gotten anything back from him as of yet, but I know there's roughly 1,200 veterans buried in that cemetery. Worst case scenario, I do have 1,200 flags that we can go up and put on the cemetery, but I do need his permission because it is privately owned.
Was there also an issue with the mowing of the facility, and is that being?
My understanding is he is contracted an agency to mow the grass, so that should be done before Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, he advised, I talked to him last night, and he advised me that he thought starting today, the mowing would start up at Crown Crest, so hopefully it'll be ready to go. Crown Crest will be up and running and ready to go by Memorial Day, which Bettina's been so helpful on. We were starting to get phone calls, and that's I appreciate Bettina coming in today and present the information. She
We
did.
will have volunteers, I promise you.
Yeah, so thank you, Bettina.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate that. And thanks, Bettina. I know you're a busy lady, so thanks so much. Okay. Now we have for our consideration on the agenda approval of non-union employee salaries and benefits. I guess there's some information we have, some of which we'll be able to accomplish today, some of which will take place at a salary board meeting, but we can at least have some information to present at this point and some action to take.
Right, yeah, so in terms of the salaries, we discussed it, and that needs to be done for the salary board. So we'll take that up on June 14th. We'll kind of go over that. But in terms of, there are some other things that we're planning to change for the non-union employees. Effective 6/1, we're talking about changing their premium share from what it is now, and it'll be reduced to $50 a month for single, $70 a month for two-party, and $100 a month for spousal. And for everybody in the non-union group, that should be a reduction. We're also talking about implementing a spousal exclusion, which is exactly identical to what we've agreed with two of our unions, and that'll be effective 8/1. So we have to give 60 days notice, so taking action today fulfills that. Along with that, right now, if you don't take health care from the county at all, you get $1,500. So we've given the other unions, we've agreed to increasing that to $2,000. So we would be just, offering them the $2,000 up from $1,500, effective back to 1/1, retroactive to 1/1/22. And then the other change is there's a pension change. Right now we're in the 160th class for new hires. We would be changing that to 180th for new hires, effective 1/1/23. Would not affect any current employee at all, nor would it affect any employee who's hired between now and the end of the year. So all of this just aligns with what we've had agreements with thus far. And the salaries we'll have to discuss at a later time.
Salary. Do we need to take any specific act? I know you're
I think
providing notice, but do we need
I don't,
specific action?
do we need a motion for those things, or do we just implement them?
I would do a motion.
Yeah, okay. Well, then I'll make a motion, for everything I just went over, I make a motion that we approve them as stated.
Thank you.
Without salaries excluded, of course.
Sure. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion having properly moved and seconded. All those in favor so signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, folks, as everyone is aware, Clearfield County has started on a renovation project for the Clearfield County Jail, which was built 40 years ago, 1981, 1982. That project has been undertaken for Clearfield County by the ABM company. We have Mr. Tyler Nichols from ABM here with us this morning to present us with a report and several items for possible action by the Clearfield County Commissioners. As ABM and the companies and contracted folks working with ABM and for ABM began a renovation project, they discovered particularly in conjunction with repairs to the roof at the jail, some significant findings as to the condition of the roof and other parts of the jail, most of which were completely unknown to us and to the companies that had taken a look at the jail. They are involving some significant additional renovation and possibly some significant additional cost to the county. Tyler's here to do a presentation as to what they are and what they will involve. And Tyler, I'm going to turn it over to you at this point. Thank you.
You have a brief presentation if you like,
Whatever you're most comfortable with.
Is that okay?
Do we need to hit, hey, Cam, could you hit the lights, please? Oh, okay.
between ABM and the county. I will try to be brief. Back in August of last year, Clearfield County and ABM partnered together on what I would describe as a very large infrastructure renewal and energy savings project. The project will touch and impact most of the facilities throughout the county, but as you know, was primarily focused on the jail, which had not been substantially renovated in any sort of a significant way since its original construction 40 years ago. Many of the major scope items at the jail were very significant in nature, removing old failed skylights, replacing doors, upgrading structural framing and supports for new HVAC equipment, all new HVAC, all new LED lighting, all new hot water heaters and boilers, significant portions of the domestic water piping. During the development of the project, ABM reviewed as-built drawings that were provided by the county, which were, of course, from the original project and construction 40 years ago. We also had, at the county's request, actually a third-party structural engineer review the facility. And that due diligence really identified a handful of things that needed to be done as part of the project. We needed to upgrade some structural framing, as I already mentioned, to support the weight of the new HVAC equipment. We needed to mechanically fasten the new roofing system to the perimeter walls. We needed to demolish. There's an overhang on the front of the jail that we identified really had to be taken down because it was not constructed correctly. And we also had to reinforce and grout the corners of the building. All of those items were included in the original scope of the project. The last two bullets on here are the reason really for our conversation today. While removing the skylights and installing the new roofing system, our team identified that there is no bond beam in the facility as it currently exists. The bond beam was specified in the original design documents and is also shown on the drawings. But it is non-existent in the facility, and I'll explain a little bit more detail why that's such a big challenge. The other item is that since the beginning of the project, the domestic water piping that is not being replaced has been failing at an exponential rate and causing a lot of pretty significant leaks in the facility. And many of the plumbing fixtures in the cells are also starting to degrade pretty rapidly. So specifically regarding the bond beam, there is no direct tie-in between the roof decking system and the supporting block. This might sound like a funny thing to say, but in many ways the roof is essentially floating on top of the building. It is not mechanically fastened to the load-bearing walls. This is a hazard that needs to be corrected. I do want to be abundantly clear in saying that everyone in that facility is safe. There is no concern of everyone's safety in that facility from a structural integrity standpoint. However, it's one of these things that once it's identified and it's known, and there would have been absolutely no way for the commissioners to have known that this was done this way. There was realistically no way for the engineers to walk the facility to know it was done this way before we started pulling block out and ripping the roof and the skylights off. There was no way to know that this corner was cut during original construction. But now that we are aware of it, it's not the kind of thing that you can really leave alone. So I would say, even though the commissioners, unfortunately, were not part of creating this challenge, it is an important responsibility to correct it moving forward. The way that we went about that was by working with a third-party structural engineer. We went directly to one of the largest engineering firms, not only in the region but in the country, Stantec Architectural Engineering. And our ask of them was very simple. We wanted them to provide a thorough investigation of the current condition of the facility, not just as it relates to the missing bond beam, but also as it related to the foundation and any other potential structural challenges. So we really tried to peel the onion back as far as we could. And we also asked them to give us a very specific plan for corrective action and a stamped report from a licensed structural engineer in the state of Pennsylvania. That report has been provided directly to the county, and the solution that is being presented to you for consideration here today matches Stantec's report exactly. The solution, which is technical by nature, obviously, and I have to admit I am not an engineer. If anybody has a very tough technical question, I have them on standby on the phone. But as you can see, it's a very invasive process. It's a very significant process. It's a labor-intensive process. Essentially, every 2 feet around the entire perimeter of the jail, we have to go through the process that you see outlined up on the screen. Obviously, that is a significant investment in the facility. Again, I would emphasize the fact that the commissioners really could not have known that this existed this way. This has been like this since original construction. It is a highly unusual, our team has never seen it before, highly unusual corner to have cut. But this will solve the issue, and the county will have the ability to stand with confidence behind a structural engineer's stamp in terms of the corrective solution that was implemented, if you so choose.
If I may, one of the ways this has manifested itself over the years, according to the engineers, from what you had said earlier, was that the continual leaking around those skylights was probably because everything was not bolted down or connected, and so there was a lot of movement at those particular areas. Is that correct? There's a lot of reason to believe that this probably led to the premature failure of those skylights. Again, every reason to believe that, as you know, the jail has experienced significant leaks through the roof over the years. This is likely a root cause associated with that challenge. To that point, not only is this the right thing to do, this corrective action will prevent that from happening to a new roof. The worst thing we could do is put a new roofing system on. The county's made a very large investment in the facility and leave something like this uncorrected. So if we left it uncorrected, it's highly likely that the new roof system would fail prematurely. Virtually guaranteed.
I guess, in other words, what happened was that maybe someone like I can understand it. Basically, somebody constructed a box, sat the top of the box on top of it, but never secured it to it. And, or when I say somebody, whoever designed and constructed that. Certainly the top had enough weight to it that it wouldn't just go flying off or something like that. But over time, it would slide around, move around, and there's always the danger of conditions that 100-year storm comes in or whatever it is, conditions, you could have a catastrophe. Although, I don't want to overemphasize that in the sense,
correct,
that folks, we're fixing it, we're going to consider fixing it, I should say, and folks inside are currently safe.
That is correct, absolutely. Could not possibly emphasize that enough. I think that is in many ways a good analogy. Ironically, gravity has been your best friend, if you think about it. The weight of that roof, and it's actually a concrete roof, given the nature of the facility, has essentially held pressure on those load-bearing walls, even though it was not mechanically fastened. In many ways, that's exactly accurate. The weight of the roof has really held it in place. There are a couple other scopes. I'm so sorry that's a little bit blurry in these. There is a little knob up there. Yep, right there. Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. I apologize for the wordiness of these slides. It goes against every sales bone in my body to show a slide that looks like that. But I do think it's important to be specific about these scopes of work. There are 3 additional scopes of work that we're presenting for consideration to the Commissioners. The first is a vertical expansion relief cutting. The brick facade on the perimeter, or on the exterior of the building, which is not structural by nature, has degraded. That's largely due to the previous roof failures and water getting behind that facade. In the climate here in Clearfield County, as you know, you go from really pretty hot in the summers to pretty cold in the winters, and it can often change very quickly. That freeze thaw is pushing the bricks off of the building. It will continue to degrade that way if not corrected. Originally, during part of our original project, we had presented not only this cutting but also a venting system that would have dried out the insulation behind. The Commissioners wanted to be fiscally responsible, and so decided not to proceed with that scope at the original project implementation. We've since reevaluated, taken sort of the venting out of this solution and proposed the cutting for expansion cutting for the Commissioners' consideration. The second is the domestic water piping replacement that we discussed on my first slide. This is on the north side of the building, really the back side of the jail. This is a main and all of the associated branches of the domestic piping, all the way from the mechanical room to the laundry room. It is the entire length of the back side of the facility. It is unfortunately located in the ceiling above hard ceilings. There is wire mesh for security reasons in that hard ceiling, and it goes over many offices and different rooms. Unfortunately, that makes it a very difficult, labor-intensive replacement, but this is failing pretty quickly and causing significant leaks for the warden. The last is a faucet replacement. As part of our original scope, we included a water conservation scope at the jail as well as the other facilities throughout the county, focused on reducing your water usage and generating some utility savings. It also was focused on increasing the controls that were available to the warden and his staff in terms of how many times a toilet could be flushed in an attempt to try to prevent flooding of the cells. We did not replace the mechanical faucets. We went back and evaluated multiple options, and you can see the proposal in front of you. This is to upgrade from an older mechanical technology to a much more modern electronic solution. This is just a drawing of the jail facility. The piping, it's hard to see, I apologize, but the piping is being replaced, is circled there in red, up at the top of the facility. I did, at the county's request, investigate a possible financing option. I believe the county's still deliberating about if you were to proceed with this scope of work, how you would finance it, if at all. But Huntington Bank, who was the original financing partner on the first phase, did provide the indicative rates that you see on the screen in front of you, and they would be very happy to partner with the county if you so choose. In the event that the Commissioners would like to proceed with any or all scopes presented for consideration, I wanted to outline some next steps. From a legal perspective, for your solicitor, this would really come in the form of an amendment to the original contract. There would be no new terms and conditions Everything would be original to the original project agreement. This would simply be an amendment with the new scope items, whatever they are, if any at all, at your discretion. And we could provide that as soon as we knew what scopes you were interested in. We could provide those to your solicitor for review. We would proceed immediately if you so chose. As you know, the roof is critical by nature, especially in preparing for the winter months and the kind of weather and snowfall that you get here in Clearfield County. And so we do have our team ready to go in the event that you so choose to proceed.
I guess the one thing that I want to make clear that I understand and we understand is that not only was this bond being not put in there, but on the plans that were created after the facility was built, they listed it as being in there. So not only did they not put it in, then they lied about the fact that it was in there.
That is accurate. I really cannot emphasize enough that the county and the commissioners were given false information at original construction. Certainly, that all predated predated all of you. It's one of those things that unfortunately you couldn't have done anything different if you had wanted to. You just were not given accurate information at original construction.
And Tyler, my understanding, in addition to ABM, another company took a look at the building, and literally, unless you start cutting through concrete block, you're not going to discover what you did discover, because obviously you don't start cutting through concrete block until you start the work.
That is correct, yes. Yes, it was very invasive and destructive by nature to, unfortunately, to get to the point where we were able to see this.
Well, I guess let me ask, I assume, Heather, can we choose to direct ABM to proceed with the work and then guarantee we'll pay for it, but then figure out, make a decision a little bit later as to how we're going to pay for it?
Sure. There is a proposed resolution that I believe you may have a copy of. If not, I have it. That essentially states that you will proceed with the project, and I do believe the total amount is for all included items that were outlined in there. And then it is pending, though, proper financing agreements being in place, solicitor review of contracts. So if for some reason we can't determine financing, there's an issue with the contracts, there is the out for the county to be protected, but it would at least get the ball moving, for lack of a better word, to keep this going. As Mr. Nichols stated, it is critical. So that resolution I had an opportunity to review this morning. And again, I think it offers enough protections to the county if we can't secure financing, but lets us proceed with the project that we need to evaluate where we're at with things.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say, I mean, we were really caught off guard by this. We have known about the existence of this issue for a couple weeks, maybe a month, I can't remember, but we have not known the extent of it literally until yesterday. And certainly the scope of the cost, we were not, I would say we're not prepared to figure that out on such short notice, but we understand the necessity to deal with, especially the bond beam issue. I mean, we don't really have a viable building if we don't deal with it. So we're kind of between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah. And also, just to add that as far as the financing, the county has good credit, but also, and the county also has American Rescue Act monies. But of course, whatever we decide to do, if we spend American Rescue Act monies, then of course we have less to apply to some on the projects that we're thinking about, sharing infrastructure projects with local municipalities, broadband, which is very, very important and critical. So we're going to try to come up with if we do decide to do the project, we're going to try to, or go ahead with the project as outlined by Tyler, we're going to try to come up with the best way we can do that, and at the same token, try to accomplish the goals as best we can that we hope to accomplish with the American Rescue Act monies.
We haven't had time to do a budgetary analysis of what this looks like. I mean, speaking for myself, I feel like we're going to have to vote for some or probably most of this project. I do not feel comfortable deciding on how to finance it just because we haven't had time to look at the data.
Sure, absolutely. Tony, your thoughts at this point? Do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, just like the other two commissioners, we were shocked at the initial cost, but it is something we have to do. We were surprised that back in the day that this wasn't looked at or how this happened, but we have to move forward. We have to take into account now that it has been discovered. We have to fix this issue, and I do believe we do need more time to decide how we will go about financing it, or how we will, you know, find the funding for it. I mean, deciding the funding for it. So.
Yeah, and I want to note, ironically, is the only one that was a grown-up 40 years ago. The thing I remember most about it, I'd just gotten out of law school, and I can remember as a young assistant public defender taking a tour of the new jail in 1982, and how shiny and new and modern it looked, and of course, little did anyone know at the time that what had been left out of the project. Okay.
And of course, we have the side issues. Well, I hate to even call them side
it's
issues,
okay.
but we have both the water issues to deal
Yep.
with potentially. I mean, I've expressed this to them, so I'm not talking out of school. I'm a little bit disappointed that the piping was not part of the original scope. Somehow that was missed. I would have expected that we would have just signed up to do all of the interior water runs, but apparently they didn't have this one in the original scope. And I know for a fact it's leaking very badly in those areas. So
I don't know how you can, I mean, you're right. I mean, if you've got deteriorating piping and such, you got to
it
fix
has
it.
to be dealt
Yeah.
with. You just
Yeah,
can't have a
fix it, yeah.
facility that's got water everywhere.
Right,
so.
yeah. Yep, that just creates more problems, so. And I know the issue with that was shown, I think the first one, the facing that keeps
Yeah.
getting peeled off because of the water buildup. We got to address that too.
We don't just want it to fall off.
Right,
I mean, that's
yeah.
just, then we're just going to have to pay to get it all put back up, so.
Yep, and jails don't qualify for Garden State brick face, so. And I don't mean to be facetious. That's a serious
Well,
problem.
when you get me news like this, you either got to laugh or cry a little
Yeah.
bit, right? So.
Yeah, really. So, okay. Well, speaking for myself, guys, with the thought that we'll figure out the best way to pay for it shortly. My suggestion is that we go ahead and I intend to vote to approve the project as proposed.
Well, did you say we have a
There is a resolution. It would be
Yeah.
Resolution 2022, number 4, I believe.
Or I can take your
Yeah.
phone.
No, I think they're the same. It just says the number at the top.
Any last thoughts, guys, before I read it into the record? Okay, for our consideration, we have resolution number 4, authorizing the selection of ABM Building Solutions LLC to implement this is a guaranteed energy savings project, but to amend the scope. We would approve the selection of ABM Building Solution to implement a project to address the infrastructural needs of the county's facilities, a total value of $3,878,660. County is authorized under the Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to enter into financing agreements, including lease obligations, to finance capital improvements for the governmental and miscellaneous functions of the county if so desired. Therefore, be it resolved by the county as follows. The chairman of the county commissioners, on behalf of the county, is authorized and directed to do any and all things necessary to effect the negotiation, finalization, execution, and delivery of the project amendment reflecting the scope selected by the commissioners and related financing agreements, if any, such other documents and instruments attached thereto are required thereby, and the performance of all other acts necessary to effect and carry out the authority conferred by this resolution. Chairman, on behalf of the county, cannot execute the project amendment or financing agreements of any without the approval of the county solicitor, and the resolution shall take effect and shall be enforced from and after its adoption. And the undersigned chief clerk would certify the foregoing. It's just administrative language. So, okay, I guess at this point, unless there are any further comments, I'll entertain a motion that we pass resolution number 4 and authorize ABM Building Solutions LLC to implement the project as stated to address the infrastructural needs presented today at this meeting.
Since that doesn't really address the scope. It only says the scope we choose. I'll make the motion and say that my motion includes all parts of the scope presented by ABM today without any exclusions.
Thank you.
Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion to be properly moved and second. All those in favor so signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And Tyler, I understand you also need a letter, correct, that we can get to you?
I did. Once things are in place, then yes, we have the notice to proceed that we'll have to issue in
Okay.
order for ABM to begin.
Okay.
Just get us down the track we need to go here from your perspective. All right.
Thank you. And Tyler, my understanding is even with the additional obligations now, it's still ABM's belief that we can have the project done before the snow flies? Yeah, I'm sorry, I misstated, the roofing project before the
Well, yeah,
snow
that
flies,
one's the
which
most
is very
critical.
important, yeah. Yeah, okay,
Okay.
okay. Very good. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Tyler.
All right, solicitor's report.
I will keep it fairly brief. I just wanted to update, as anyone may have heard on the news, there are some election lawsuits that are flying around coming. Just to keep the three of you involved, I have spoken to the director to make sure that we're apprised of those issues following any of the orders that come down and recommendations. Fortunately, Clearfield County is not overly impacted by a lot of what's going on in some of the other counties. So we are following those, keeping up to date to make sure everything we do complies with any of those orders that come down as a result of those. As more things happen, I will certainly let you know as well. That's all I have.
Thank you, Heather.
Related to that, if we're on the good of the order, well, we are going to have a meeting next Tuesday of the election board to deal with those undated ballots. There's only, just FYI though, there's only two, and they're both on the Democrat side, so it will not affect the really close R Senate race.
Sure, and I do, there will be a public
Yes,
notice
we will
placed
provide
for that,
notice.
but yes, Tuesday is right now the tentative date.
And then
on that.
also, it looks very much like we're going to have a recount in that same race, and to be determined. We'd like to start it on Tuesday. We're not sure if we're allowed yet. It might be Wednesday, but we will let everyone know when we start the recount. You'd said. What I sent out. Oh, she sent it out. She didn't put a date on it or a time on it, so we'll let you know. I don't know yet. I have to check with her.
Thank you.
It won't
Okay.
take very long, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Okay, well, as if that wasn't enough, what we've talked about today, is there anything else for the good of the order? Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn the meeting, and we got some agreements here, or we got some paperwork to sign. Is there a motion that we adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Tony. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.